Welcome back, folks, to a very special Labor Day edition of #AskJuSend, the weekly Monday mailbag video or answer your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Another great set of questions this week, and with that being said, let's get right down to them. First question coming from Jose C. from YouTube. His question was, why is it that Jack Swagger and Rusev were still selling their injuries, but John Cena, after getting destroyed at SummerSlam, acted like he didn't? Whatever. Is he perfectly healthy? Very good question, and one of the biggest qualms of last week's episode of Monday Night Raw, and that John Cena showed absolutely no ill effects from the beating that he took at SummerSlam at the hands of Brock Lesnar. That pissed off a lot of people, myself included. Even Batista was talking about it on Jericho's podcast last week. That's how it's a lost art form in today's wrestling, that people just don't sell their injuries, with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania being a prime example on how he was beating the living crap out of in the main event of WrestleMania. Also earlier on in the night by Triple H and getting attacked, getting put through a table at the hands of Batista and Randy Orton. But he showed up the next night on Raw like nothing happened. I'm a big Daniel Bryan fan, but he makes a perfectly good point. And I don't blame it on John Cena. I don't blame it on Daniel Bryan. I more so blame it on the writers who don't script in, telling them that they have to sell the injuries that they endured during the match that they went through. Daniel Bryan was a different story the next night. WrestleMania, it's a different time. He won the WWE Championship. He won. It's a little different, slightly different. It's not double standards here, but John Cena, and I know he was kept off the show for about a week or so. But that being said, though, that doesn't change the fact that he should have showed up on Raw. Maybe not more so in a cast. I always hate when wrestlers show up in like a neck cast, or it's always annoying to me for some other reason. I don't know. It's always been a pet peeve of mine. And at least they show that they're selling the injury, though. That's kind of the important thing. But with that being said, though, they should have had him show up on Raw limping or showing some bruises or something. I mean, he was dropped on his neck 16 times from those German suplexes. So it made absolutely no sense for him to show up on Raw like nothing ever happened. It was a complete mind-boggling situation. One of the many things wrong with last week's episode of Raw. But no, he's not perfectly healthy. I guess WWE's trying to depict him that way. But in reality, he shouldn't be, and it's a terrible use of storytelling and just no realism. And people ask where the kayfabe has gone in today's wrestling. I mean, that's where it's gone, not selling your injuries and stuff like that. It's little stuff like that that matters, and WWE doesn't follow through, and it makes absolutely no sense. But then again, when was the last time that logic has actually been involved in any WWE storyline? So there you go. His next question was, who do you think was the more impactful Latino wrestler, Rey Mysterio or Eddie Guerrero? And his second question was, who was a more impactful African-American, Booker T or Mark Henry? You can't count The Rock because that is too easy. Okay, so first the Latino wrestler one. Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. I really like both these questions because all four of these guys are great and made impacts in the business. Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. I feel like Eddie Guerrero made that bigger impact first in escaping that stigma of being a vanilla midget wrestler from WCW, winning the WWE Championship in WWE, being like all around entertaining. Always loved, whether he was a heel or a babyface. A great World Tag Team Champion, Intercontinental Champion. So much success that he had over the course of his career in WWE before he unfortunately passed in 2005. In terms of Rey Mysterio, he also made a bigger impact. I mean, who are you going to say? I don't even know if Rey Mysterio has sold more merch than Eddie Guerrero, but you can't determine one's success solely by the merch and popularity. Both guys were extremely popular. But I would say that Eddie Guerrero made the bigger impact. Not only did he make it first, but Rey Mysterio, a lot of people would argue that he only got that push in 2006 as World Heavyweight Champion in the first place was because of Eddie's death, and they want to capitalize off of it. And had that never happened, he probably would have never become World Champion. And Eddie Guerrero's reign, I mean, it wasn't all that much better than Rey Mysterio's, but it felt like it had more passion in it when he won the WWE title at No Way Out 2004, and when Rey Mysterio won it at WrestleMania 22. It was still a great victory and all, but it just didn't feel the same. And I remember I was watching the match about a week or so ago on the WWE Network, and you could hear people booing when Rey Mysterio won the championship because they clearly wanted Kurt Angle to retain. But that being said, though, I would have to go with Eddie Guerrero in that instance. For the second part of your question, who is a more impactful African-American wrestler, Booker T or Mark Henry? Mark Henry, it's really hard to say because he got all that success as World Heavyweight Champion, Hall of Fame stuff, a lot later on in his career. And then early on, he really didn't do much. I mean, he was a part of the Nation of Domination. He was a former ECW champion, not hardcore champion. Might have been a European champion. I don't remember exactly. I think it was a European champion, but anyway, one of those titles. I would have to go with Booker T in this instance, in WCW, a 5-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, came over to the WWE, won the King of the Ring, won the World Heavyweight Championship, one of the top stars and one of the most popular stars in WCW WWE history about a decade ago. So I would absolutely have to go with Booker T. I know you said you can't count The Rock, but I would have to go with him as the most impactful African American wrestler in WWE history. Farouk, you failed to mention, I would have to put him on there as well, being the first African American World Heavyweight Champion, I believe, in wrestling history. But of those two that you mentioned, Booker T or Mark Henry, absolutely Booker T. No slight to Mark Henry, but also all the success that he got and all the popularity with the world title win and the Hall of Pain stuff, that came a lot later on in his career in 2011. Whereas Booker T, he had a very well-rounded career and very well deserving of that Hall of Fame induction a couple of years ago. So absolutely Booker T in that instance. Justin G from Facebook, his question was, do you think the WWE kind of wants to forget that Ken Shamrock was in the WWE and the 1998 King of the Ring, in which he won? Also, do you think that Ken Shamrock will be in the Hall of Fame? Very good question. I don't think they like to forget, and you said they like to forget the 1998 King of the Ring. I don't think it's that specific King of the Ring. They just like to forget the entire King of the Ring concept in general. I was always a big fan of it, possibly because one of the first episodes of Raw that I watched was the 2008 King of the Ring tournament, so maybe I'm biased in saying that. And I know the most recent winners really didn't go anywhere. William Regal got suspended shortly after winning his 08 King of the Ring victory. 2010 King Sheamus was an absolute bust. So I don't blame them for, tucking it away for the time being. I do want to see it make a return. Some people have suggested making a WWE Network exclusive, like a tournament that you only see in the network, like one of their kind of pay-per-views kind of thing, but a special event that you won't see on Raw or SmackDown. I love that idea. Whatever brings back the King of the Ring tournament, I thought it was awesome. And like in 02 with Brock Lesnar, you can give the winner of the tournament World Heavyweight Championship match or a World Title match if you wanted to, and that's something that you could do, or a IC title match or something like that, and it could be great. So I absolutely want to see it return. I know that's not your question, but you said why do they like to forget about the King of the Ring? They just like to forget about the King of the Ring in general. I can't remember the last time they ever mentioned the King of the Ring tournament on WWE TV. In terms of Ken Shamrock, it's interesting that you bring that up. I don't think he has any real heat with WWE. I can't remember the last time he was on TV. I know he left in like the early 2000s, but I don't know if he ever showed up after that. And I don't know if there was anything that he did that has prevented him from being mentioned in like CM Punk, Benoit fashion. Nothing ever that serious, I guess. But yeah, that is interesting. I would like to see Ken Shamrock back in the WWE, not in a regular role, but at least a one-off appearance would be cool. I recall reading a couple of years ago that he was either down on the idea or he trashed the WWE. Actually, you know what it was? He had ill words for Triple H. I think there's a lot of heat between Triple H and Ken Shamrock, and that Triple H doesn't want Ken Shamrock back in WWE. How true that is, I have no idea. I'm just going off what Ken Shamrock said. I can't remember how long ago that was, but it couldn't have been too long ago. I know it was at least a year or two ago that I read that, but even still, though, do I think he will be in the Hall of Fame? Maybe. I'm not going to say no. I mean, he made an impact in the Attitude Era in the couple of years that he was there. Former King of the Ring, as you said, 1998 winner, Intercontinental Tag Team Champion, or Intercontinental Champion, I said it again, World Tag Team Champion. So yeah, I would argue that he might be worthy of a Hall of Fame induction. He wouldn't be my, right before Macho Man Randy Savage. We need to get him in ASAP. But yeah, maybe a little later down the line, he made an impact. Went to UFC or started in the UFC before the WWE. Made a huge impact there. One of the innovators of MMA and stuff like that. I know they don't count as TNA run, but he had a brief run there as well. So yeah, I would. I'm not going to say he's not worthy, but I could definitely see Ken Shamrock in the WWE Hall of Fame. Not anytime soon, but maybe later down the line. But like I said before, with all the apparent heat between Triple H and Ken Shamrock, it's very unlikely that we will not see Ken Shamrock in WWE anytime soon, much less a Hall of Fame induction. Ross asked, his question was, do you have any dream rivalries / feuds? I don't. You ask a good question, Ross. I don't like to answer like general questions like that because they're really, really broad. I know I've answered this before because there's just so many, and I know there's a lot more that don't come to mind at the moment. I wrote down a few right here. Sting and Undertaker is obviously one. Of course, that's been a feud for nearly a decade now in terms of WWE versus WCW / TNA, a dream match that everyone's wanted to see. So that might be possible next year. So we'll have to wait and see. I put down CM Punk and Kurt Angle. I know that might not be possible right now with CM Punk being retired, but that was always the dream feud I wanted to see. CM Punk and Austin Aries, John Cena and AJ Styles, and they could have a hell of a match as well. Those are only the few that come to mind. I know there's many, many, many more. I just can't think of at the moment. But yeah, I guess those would have to be some of my dream matches slash feuds that I would love to see come to fruition. Some are more likely than others, obviously, like a Punk Angle or a Daniel Bryan Kurt Angle matchup I think could be amazing. CM Punk and Austin Aries, same thing. CM Punk and Samoa Joe, I know they had a lot of matches in Ring of Honor, but I wanted to see them mix it up in WWE or TNA, more than likely. WWE, I know CM Punk would never go back to TNA, but nevertheless, though, yeah, those are some of my dream feuds, rivalries. I'm sorry I can't go in more in depth to that question. Those are just some of the ones that come to my mind off the top of my head. His second question was, what's your worst stipulation? This is another question where there's a lot of answers to. I just couldn't think of them all at the moment, but I did write down a few. The Inferno match, I always thought was cool, but after seeing it on SummerSlam for the first time as a fan at last year's SummerSlam event, it was an absolute train wreck of a matchup, and a matchup I do not want to see come back anytime soon. I know it was a cool visual, yeah, fire in a ring. I know that sounds cool on paper, but the execution was totally terrible. It might have been the match participants and being Bray Wyatt and Kane, but I can't expect anyone else to have a much better Inferno match. It might have fit the time in the Attitude Era, but right now in 2014, it really doesn't make much sense or fit in with the PG rating and whatever. So the Inferno match, that's a little dumb. This day and age, maybe like I said, 15 years ago was cool, but nowadays it's kind of a waste and stupid. The stretcher match is absolutely up on that list. I always thought that was one of the dumber stipulations out there. There are some stretcher matches I did enjoy. I know Big Show and Brock Lesnar had a hell of a stretcher match, maybe in 02, 03, I think 03. And I also really enjoyed Batista versus Shawn Michaels from the One Night Stand 2008 pay-per-view, reviewed here on the channel, cheap plug. But they had a hell of a stretcher match a couple of years ago in 2008. Punjabi prison match from the matches that I've seen at the Great American Bash 2006, I want to say, and No Mercy 2007. An absolute train wreck of a match as well. Why they even created that is beyond me, but a very dumb match stipulation. Of course, anything on a pole match is always ridiculous, never makes for any compelling TV whatsoever. You see it quite a bit in TNA nowadays. Not nowadays, but you did a couple of years ago when Vince Russo was still there. Those kind of matches drive me to no end as well. So those are only a few of the worst stipulations, in my opinion, that I never want to see return in a WWE ring, TNA ring, Ring of Honor, whatever. I just do not like those stipulations whatsoever. Paul S., his question was, what do you think the WWE needs the most right now? Stables, tag teams, cruiserweights, or loudmouth managers like Jimmy Hart or Paul Heyman? Great question. Let's break this down. Let's analyze this. Cruiserweights, no, because there's no Cruiserweight Championship right now. I know I've been asked that a number of times. We even talked about it last week in the video here in the hashtag SGSM video series with at Heel by Design John. Thanks again for coming on last week. We talked about that. I don't think they need cruiserweights right now. They have a hell of a lot of cruiserweights if you consider like Sami Zayn and Prince Devitt and Kenta and all those kind of guys cruiserweights. So no, I don't think we need more of those. Tag teams, yes, absolutely, and I'll get back to that in a second, whether that's what we need the most right now. Stables, I don't think so. We had kind of a stables phase a couple of years ago with the Wyatt family, the Shield, 3MB, the New Nation of Domination, which lasted all of 2 weeks. But yeah, we kind of had that stable phase. I love stables. I'm a sucker for stables, but I think the Wyatt family, I can't really think what other stables we have right now. I think that's it. The Authority as well, I guess. I think we have enough stables right now. I don't think it's a necessary thing. Like with TNA, everyone needs to be a part of a stable. That was kind of dumb a couple of years ago when they did that with Fortune and then Immortal and Main Event Mafia, and it's ridiculous how many groups that TNA has done over the years, aces and eights. But no, I don't think we need more stables. I'm a sucker for stables, but I'm gonna have to go with no. So it comes down to, do we need more tag teams right now, or do we need more loudmouth managers? Not even loudmouth managers. I think we just need more managers in general. I know we had Zeb Coulter, who was currently written off TV. When he comes back, he might come back tonight on Raw. I have no idea, but we need more managers. We've got Lana, we've got Zeb Coulter, we've got Paul Heyman. But that's about it. We had a couple of managers around a couple of years ago. We had AW. Remember back in 2012? That was the closest thing that we had to someone being like a legit manager. And, you know, he got fired for, of course, and then the whole Kobe Bryant thing. That's so comical all these years later. But, yeah. What do we need more of right now? More managers or more tag teams? I would have to say tag teams. I think tag teams are a bigger priority. I know the art of a wrestling manager is a lost art. I realize that. I wholeheartedly agree that we need more managers, but I think the necessity right now, I mean, there's no managers championship, if you know what I'm saying. We do have Paul Heyman, which I think is enough right now because Paul Heyman's so freaking great. But we definitely need more tag teams because right now we have the Usos. We've got Ryback, who with Ryback, I've got a question about that in a minute. Ryback is currently out with an injury, so that tag team's out of commission for the time being. We've got Los Matadors. We've got Stardust and Goldust, Slater, Gator, and that's pretty much it. And also Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, Mark Henry and the Big Show. I mean, we've got a handful of tag teams, but none of them really have any much character depth. So I would absolutely agree that we need more tag teams right now. Managers is up there. I know we need more managers, but I think tag teams is a priority right now because that tag team division is dwindling after everything that Cody Rhodes and Goldust did last year to help improve it. WWE ruined it when they broke up all the good tag teams. So with that being said, up next from Andre G, his question was, when do you think R-Truth will retire? Do you think he could have been world champion in WWE? I'll answer the second part of your question first. The only time he could have ever been a world champion in WWE, and I know you know the answer to what I'm about to say, was 2011. He was one of the best heels in the company, the whole little Jimmy thing, and I was talking to John about this last week, and how great he was in 2011 when you go back and watch that year. He was just so freaking awesome in everything that he did, and it's such a shame that they dropped the ball on that. It was partly his fault with him getting suspended, but when he came back, they didn't have to turn him babyface, and that kind of ruined his character. He went babyface, then he stopped being crazy, then he started rapping again. Now it's, you compare today's R-Truth with 08 R-Truth, and there's really no difference whatsoever, and it's kind of ridiculous. But we celebrated the 6-year anniversary of R-Truth coming to the main roster of when he made his debut. I know he was in WWE before WWF as K-Quick 10 years ago, but the R-Truth character made his debut almost exactly 6 years ago to when I'm filming this. I think we celebrated the anniversary a couple days ago. But that being said, though, could he have been world champion in 2011? Maybe not WWE champion. I never really saw him as being a threat. I mean, that was the closest he ever got to winning a world title in that year when he was a heel, one of the leading heels in the company in 2011. I never really saw him as winning the WWE title against John Cena. They could have moved him over to SmackDown. I know at that point in time, the brand split was essentially dead, but you could have given him the world title like they did with Christian. Like, I've never seen Christian as ever being a WWE champion, maybe like 10 years ago. But like as soon back as 2011, I knew that they were never going to give the WWE title to Christian. So the World Heavyweight Championship, say what you will about it, was the next best thing. So I could have seen R-Truth as world champion, but by the time he kind of cooled off in late 2011, the brand split was already dead, so there was really no point. So yeah, maybe in 2011 as World Heavyweight Champion, but that's about it. When do I think he'll retire? I don't know. I recently read an interview with R-Truth saying that his shoulder is currently, I think at 80%, it's currently injured. I don't think he's done. I don't think he's showed any signs of slowing down. I'm not an R-Truth fan. Like I said before, I only liked him when he was a heel in 2011. He's been boring to me ever since. If he was to retire, I don't think the roster would be missing a massive spot because he hasn't done anything in so long that it really doesn't matter. And I don't think at this point in his career you can really do anything substantial with the guy unless you go, turn him back heel. And that's why I was so excited about the new Nation of Domination stable. And I've said this before, but I keep calling it that because that was the only thing that people were latching onto. There's really nothing else to call it except the Xavier Woods, Big E, Kofi Kingston stable. I could have seen him being a part of that as a heel, which could have been amazing, which a lot of people were also excited about. But aside from that, I really don't see any purpose of him being on the roster in 2014. I mean, he's a lovable character for the kid, but aside from that, he's been selling the merch. And I mean, he gets good pops when he comes out sometimes, but he's not doing anything. He hasn't done anything for such a long time. And with all the NXT guys coming up soon, you got to put him down to, put him to rest. I'm not saying kill him, but you got to have him retire at some point sooner rather than later. But when do I see him retiring? I don't know. It's all to R-Truth. Like I said before, I know he said he was injured, but he, based off his interviews, he has really shown no signs of slowing down anytime soon. So maybe the next couple of years, but personally speaking, I really have no desire to see R-Truth around because he really serves no purpose on the roster in 2014. Next question comes from at WWE_The_Shield12. This question was, what went through your mind when Seth Rollins turned on the Shield? So it was my birthday when that happened on June 2nd. I remember watching that show. The show was so dreadfully boring. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't as bad as last week's episode of Raw, but the show was so boring. So for that to come out of nowhere absolutely shocked me. I don't think anyone saw that coming, especially 24 hours removed from their dominant victory over Evolution at Payback. So I remember Seth Rollins holding the chair in hands. I'm like, no, please don't do it. Please don't do it. And then he turns on Roman Reigns. I just sat there shocked for a second. And then I was kind of like, it was like that 5 stages kind of thing. Like I wrote a Facebook post on this before on the 5 stages that you knew you went through when the streak broke, when the streak was broken at the hands of Brock Lesnar this year at WrestleMania 30. It was kind of one of those things in that I was shocked for a moment. Then I was in denial thinking, okay, the Shield can't be over. It has to be a double turn. It has to be A double agent for Seth Rollins is going to turn back on Evolution, rejoin the Shield. That has to be what it is. So I was in denial. I was in shock. I was in anger at one point. I was very angry at Seth Rollins. It was like one of those legitimate heat things. Like, you never really get that mad at a wrestler. You might be mad at the person who portrays the character, but very rarely nowadays with the internet and people loving the heels do you get legitimately pissed off at what a character does on TV, and it's exactly what I did. I was like, Seth Rollins is such an asshole for breaking up the Shield. One of my favorite stables of all time is broken up because of you, you douche. Like, I hated Seth Rollins for that brief moment. So I know I was angry, disappointed, shocked, in denial. In the end, I was kind of pleased. I mean, because guys, I mean, not that night, but, you know, in the long run, it's really worked out for all three guys. All three guys are tremendously over, and it really adds to the singles competition in WWE atop the roster. So I'm really happy for each guy's success. But at the time, I was really just disappointed that the Shield had broken up, and I didn't think it was the best move because they were still popular. But sometimes that's what you got to do. And breaking up a stable when they are at their peak, so they don't, you know, die down, and when they turn on each other, no one really cares. So I absolutely agree that I think it was the best move to break up the Shield when they did. But at the time, what was my reaction? I was just in shock and denial, and I just wanted to hate Seth Rollins so much for breaking up one of my favorite stables of all time. So hopefully that answers your question. Next question comes from @CodyCollier12. His question was, who would you like to see win the NXT Championship more at NXT TakeOver 2, Sami Zayn or Tyler Breeze, and why? Good question. Sami Zayn, if only because he's been in NXT longer and I think he deserves it more. Tyler Breeze is this close. Like, if he won the NXT title at TakeOver 2, I would not at all be disappointed. I'm a huge Tyler Breeze fan. I think he's great. He's got a great gimmick. He's got a great look. He's got the great in-ring skills, mic skills. He's got everything. He's a full package. I'm not saying he could be a world champion in WWE, but in terms of NXT champion, absolutely. If Adrian Neville, a guy that looks like, you know, a troll, I mean, not a troll, but you know what I mean, like in terms of like size and stuff, he looks like a garden gnome. And no offense to him, but I mean, if he can win the NXT championship, then anyone basically can. Maybe not anyone, but absolutely, I think a Tyler Breeze deserves to win the NXT championship. But I'm going to have to go with Sami Zayn, because like I said before, he's been in NXT longer. It's been a long, hard chase for him to win that gold. He's been going for it a number of times over the last couple of years. And he came up short in that feud with Bo Dallas, and I wanted him, quite honestly, to be the one to unseat Bo Dallas as the new NXT champion, but it would end up being Adrian Neville instead, who is also deserving. But I would have to go with Sami Zayn because I think he is more deserving than Tyler Breeze. Tyler Breeze will get his time, but the sooner you give the NXT title to Sami Zayn, the likelier and sooner he'll get on the main roster. I mean, that's kind of been the case for the last couple of NXT champions. So as soon as he drops that title after he wins it, not within the next month or so, but you know, give him a couple month reign like you did with Adrian Neville, then you promote it to the main roster. So we could see Sami Zayn on WWE TV by WrestleMania time next year, which could be awesome. So of those two, I would give the title to Sami Zayn. Like I said before, because he's more deserving, he's been there longer, and Tyler Breeze, this time will come. It's just not right now, in my opinion. Eli the Big Guy, are chances good for Rollins to successfully cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase? I would say his chances are very, very good. Damien Sandow. Damien Sandow is a very interesting case. I know a lot of people say that, and this has always bothered me. I've wrote a post on this before, but people still don't listen. And that I don't think John Cena buried Damien Sandow. I mean, he's essentially buried right now, depending on how you use that term, with the whole comedy character, and they're not doing anything with him right now. He's making the most of it. I'll give him that much. But the way they've treated him, I mean, I think he's, you know, capable of doing much, much more. With that being said, though, Damien Sandow was dead in the water long before he ever won that briefcase. He was on the right track when he had that not great feud, but he had that good feud with Sheamus. He never won any of those matches, but he had great matches against Sheamus, and that kind of made people look at him in an all-new light, a new aggressive manner. He won the Money in the Bank briefcase, which I thought was a great move, and then he lost, and then he lost some more, and then he lost some more. And it got to the point where he was losing almost every match where he was Mr. Money in the Bank. And it's not one of those things where, like, The Miz was Mr. Money in the Bank, or he's Dolph Ziggler, and they were losing a lot of the matches that they were involved in as Mr. Money in the Bank. It's not like that at all, because when they were Mr. Money in the Bank, at least they were still involved in something, you know, like a top-tier storyline, or, I don't know, people still saw them as being future world champions. Damien Sandow, it got to the point where he was losing to guys like Santino, and he was losing to guys like R-Truth every week. So nobody saw him as a legit world champion. So had he even won the World Heavyweight Championship, let's say Damien Sandow successfully cashed in, beat John Cena for the World Heavyweight Championship, I still don't even think then people would have looked at him as a serious threat to that title. And he would have had a Jack Swagger-like reign. They would have booked him like shit because he was booked like shit before he cashed in. Like I said before, it's different than any other past Money in the Bank winner in that he was losing to job guys. He wasn't losing to top guys like Randy Orton or John Cena, guys like Dolph Ziggler and The Miz had done before. These guys, Damian Sandow was losing to guys like Santino and R-Truth. He was past the point of being even resurrected to where he could be a legit world champion. Seth Rollins has got a lot of good wins as Mr. Money in the Bank over the likes of Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam a couple of times, the next one on Raw as well. Rob Van Dam. He's beaten a number of guys since he won that briefcase. He hasn't lost all that much. He's only lost maybe 2 or 3 times, if that. In the last year alone, Seth Rollins has been so well protected, intentionally or not, so I give kudos to WWE for that. But with that being said, I think his chances are much, much better of cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase successfully, because he's been a lot better booked than guys like Damian Sandow were, especially given the fact that he's a part of the Authority. The Authority wants the world title in their possession, and once he eventually wins that world championship, you can have Dean Ambrose chase after it, and you can have him feuding with the Authority, or Roman Reigns for that matter. It makes the most sense. So absolutely, I would say the chances are very, very good for Seth Rollins cashing in that Money in the Bank briefcase successfully. At Swagzio, his question was, where do you see Curtis Axel moving forward with Ryback's injury? He was boring in tag team competition. Now he's going to be boring in singles competition. I mean, no slight to Curtis Axel. I'm not going to say I'm a Curtis Axel fan, but I want to see the guy used better. He's a great wrestler. Yes, his mic skills leave something to be desired, but even in Ryback, so I've said that since the start, the guys have no chemistry, and they improved that over time. They became a better pairing than I thought they would, with the matching, beanies and stuff like that. Some of that stuff was funny, but for the most part, you never really saw him or Ryback as a team being legit threats to those WWE Tag Team titles. So that tag team never really worked out. And I know you said your question was, what happens to Curtis Axel with Ryback's injury? Hopefully when Ryback comes back, they don't reunite this tag team. I've been saying this since he got injured last week, and I've been saying this long before that. You need to turn Ryback back face. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity. He comes back as a babyface. Give him back his Feed Me More thing. Give him back the old theme song. Everything. The guy will get a massive pop. I think he has much bigger upside right now than Curtis Axel. Like I said, the whole Paul Heyman thing didn't really work out. And I mean, I don't blame that 100% on Paul Heyman. I more so blame it on the booking of Curtis Axel. He was IC champion for 5 months, sure, but he lost every single match to CM Punk. He never beat him once. Not once did he beat CM Punk, and that really delegitimized his chances of being looked at as a top guy in WWE or anything close to a top guy, because he had lost so much. He lost so many matches as IC champion. It was to the point of being an absolute joke. So that being said, what happens to Curtis Axel now? Probably just be a regular on WWE Superstars main event. I mean, it saddens me to say that because I think he has more potential. I think he's capable of being a solid mid-card guy. But people just do not care about Curtis Axel. I don't know what you need to do to make people care about him. He's better off as Curtis Axel than he is Michael McGillicuddy. I'll say that much. But he's not doing anything right now. He wasn't doing anything before he teamed up with Ryback. He was a Paul Heyman guy, but again, he was booked so terribly that I don't think really anyone cares about him right now. That's why he's not getting strong reactions and stuff like that. So people are just bored by Curtis Axel. Like I said before, it's not entirely his fault. It's the booking of his character. I really don't see him going anywhere on his own. They've already repackaged him once from McGillicuddy to Curtis Axel, so I really don't know what you need to do with him now to make people care about the guy. Maybe turn him babyface, see how that works out. But aside from that, I really don't know what you do with Curtis Axel, aside from making him a regular on Superstars, the main event, because that's what he's been for the last week since Ryback came down with the injury. And I know it's only been a week, but I just can't see Curtis Axel doing much without Ryback. With or without Ryback, I think Curtis Axel is in need of some major help. His character is, that is, because I think he needs a major makeover or something, because they're not doing anything with the guy. It's really disappointing. It's really disappointing in that he's a great wrestler, and I think they could be doing a lot more with Curtis Axel. The final question comes from at DAJOSC11. I'm sorry if I botched that. I completely misread that. Are you pissed off at all that the new WWE title does not have a nameplate? I feel like every wrestler dreams of having their name on the title. It should say who is the champ in the meaning of that they earned it. It makes me mad. What about you? I don't know if they still do this. I forgot to check with Brock Lesnar, but I know when they incorporated the new championship with The Rock about a year and a half ago, they started doing these side plates instead of the nameplates. They had the side plates with the logo, and people were going berserk at the Brahma Bull logo being on the WWE Championship. Whoever thought that was permanent is out of their mind, because obviously anyone with a brain knew that there was only going to be temporary until John Cena won the belt at WrestleMania. So it was pretty obvious at that point. And I mean, I like the whole, the yes thing with Daniel Bryan when he held it for that brief period of time earlier this year. With Randy Orton, he had the RKO on the sides and his little logo. I know it's something different. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of there not being a nameplate. But for me personally, I'm completely fine with that. I think the logos on the sides, replacing those nameplates, I think that's very cool. I think it's unique. I think that's something that's ever been done before. Maybe another company has done it outside of the U.S., but from what I've seen, I've never seen another company do that before and putting a wrestler's logo on the side plates of that championship belt instead of their name. You make a very good point. Maybe they should do both. I just love the logo thing, and so I'm okay with it, replacing the name. I'm okay with it replacing the nameplate. But that being said, though, like you said, I think a lot of people dream of having their name printed on the championship, and I think the logo is that much cooler as well. But if you want to be old school, yeah, I think it's fine. I think they should incorporate that as well. Like I said before, I don't know if they're doing that with Brock Lesnar or now they only have the standard WWE logo on the sides of it. I really don't know. I got to go back and look after I'm done with this video. But yeah, it doesn't really piss me off because, like I said before, the logo plates on the side I think are very, very cool. It's unique. It's never been done before. Does it tarnish the championship? I don't think so. I think it's out of the ordinary, but you could also do both too. I mean, there's no reason why you can't have both the nameplate and the logos on the side to make it that much cooler and / traditional. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. So that's gonna do it for today's hashtag AskGSM video. Thanks a lot, guys, for sending in the questions. Always appreciated. If you want to send in a question, make sure to tweet me on Twitter with the hashtag AskGSM at WrestleRant. You can find me on Facebook as well at Graham GSM Matthews, or you can leave a comment down below with your question. I'll be sure to incorporate it in next week's video. So, with that being said, once again, guys, thanks for watching. I always appreciate it. Make sure to stay tuned for another hashtag AskGSM video next week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch you guys then.